Good morning, traders, and welcome to Trade the Structure and the US market recap. So we're coming into the Asian market session. We'll take a look at what happened overnight on our key indices. We'll look at some currencies, gold, copper, your major bits and pieces we normally do, just to get a picture of what has happened overnight, what we could expect going forward into today's session, into the Asian session, and back into Europe and US. All right, so we'll start off with the ASX from yesterday. Market popped up straight from the open, okay, rallied off this support level of 71.60, ramped straight up to 72.48, which is a bit unusual considering how the US was down. So, yeah, if you're not getting the feeling that you're manipulated sometimes, I don't know why not. You can see, so that pushed up into that level there, to that resistance, 72.48, pushed down, had a bit of a flush at that level before we closed here, and then faded in the European session, back down to that 71.60, retested, held it, and then straight back into it. So US last night, open low, was looking okay, sort of grinded its way up and then got smacked, which is this move here, probably about 5 a.m. in the morning, Sydney time. Come smack back down, and then we saw it retest the lows, maybe flush the lows, and they bounced straight back again. Okay, so the market into the close, pushed back up again, like you can see on the ASX 200. So what we're looking for really on the open is to see if the market's going to be bullish. I would expect this level, maybe flush down here. I would expect potentially flush down and then a bit of a ramp. Okay, if it wants to be bullish right from the open, I would find that tough after what we did yesterday in the chop. So anyone that sort of bought it up here is now underwater. It'd be interesting to see what we do in the open, but we could easily just flush this level if the market wants to sort of, fade lower. I would expect that to be flushed, 71.78, and then get a lower high to work off. Otherwise, we're going to be working around this area, I would suspect, on the open, whether it's going to be bullish, we have a bit of a pullback, chop around, build a higher low and go, or it's just one pop, pullback, hold the level and go again. But we'll wait and see what happens on the open. Over to the US now. So this is what I'm saying. The market from yesterday, let's just see where the close was. So we're looking, right in here, the market popped down with a weak European open, pushed down to this 34.425, and then just chopped around. You can see some lower highs continue to hold, but this level was getting soaked up, 34.425 down to 34.335. Okay, so that was getting soaked up. So there is some buyers, whether they're looking to a bigger move up through 34.830, or whether they're just trying to buy the dip or trying to support it, but there's still some selling pressure coming in. So until it stops holding lower highs, at the moment, we would expect another rollover into this support zone. Okay, if it starts to bit of a pullback, hold a higher level, you want to see a clear higher level above 34.425, then I would expect we could see a ramp up to that 34.830 or even higher, 34.950. But we'll wait and see what the US does. So that Europe's going to open, they're going to probably open up a bit stronger, considering that US actually bounced back into the close, and that could lift the US session, or we lift the Dow into the open there. US tech, so the NASDAQ, I was expecting potentially, this is your first leg down, bit of consolidation sideways action. That's a weak market, expecting a push down, that volatility leg, expand that down. It could have taken you down to 13.727, but it wasn't to happen. Market popped down, held in between these two levels, then held up, popped up into the close. We got 14,300 that held. Then we see this little ramp up into the close. But if we got this flush here, if this level holds 14,300 coming today, and we start to fade in today into the US session, we could see another move down. We could see that leg down. That's just a big washout of some of these short sellers. Okay, so that is a level, it's a clear level that it's broken and it's pulled back into the below that level. So if it can actually hold this low above this low, it could work its way up. If it starts to hold below this 14.3, then we're heading south. Okay, US 500. What am I talking about there? Now it faded off this 49.50, 45.90. What am I talking about? 45.90, faded off that level. We had that little bounce which we spoke about, and then we got drove through that 44.80 level. Now that there, I would expect that's that sort of push down, which you can see in the US session, that sell off, and then we bounce straight back again. It still is fairly heavy, so you've got a zone through here. If it holds that, then the pressure could continue. But if it starts to hold this level and we start to push up and through, I'll be looking for more something like this, fade, then maybe something, and then hold a higher low and up we go. and then you could be looking for a move up into 44.80 and even above that, because we've got a lot of sellers built up. Okay, so that's the thing. You've got some juice on the sell side that could easily get squeezed out for a good move back up, a good retracement back up, or this continues to hold and it's around 44.29, and then we start to fade and we get through this level and we just work our way back down to 42.96. Europe, you can see European session, that was the FTSE. It's getting buoyed at 74.90, but it's also getting held down around that 75.56. So that uptrend was broken. You can see we spoke about this yesterday. Big uptrend that broke. We faded with some lower highs, pressing into the market down to that 74.90. So this could easily be another lower high, potentially even that 75.56. If that holds, then expect a move through 74.90 into these lows. Now it depends on whether that fear has been negated about what's happening in Ukraine with Russia, and other just fears that have been driving this market lower. Whether it can hold that level is, we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. DAX had a big level down at 14,855 to 14,920. That's the zone through there, which held last night. We lifted up off that level, and that was coming into the US session. You see, it come under fire quite a bit. So that European Open was around about here. Okay, it got smacked down on the open, bounced back a bit. It has held up. So the CFD pricing is what, it flows right through to 8 a.m. when the US closes, whereas the index is the index closed around 3 a.m. So the index is going to bounce, which is around, actually where we were about here, about 3:30. So it's probably going to open up slightly, 50 to 100 points, somewhere around there. So this index here, you can see that's actually the DAX is held through here. So that's got a little zone through 15,140, 150, held through there, faded off that level, bounced back. So there is some selling coming off these highs, but it's getting soaked up a bit. So we could get a bit of a squeeze. So we've got these sellers that are built up again. And it's, like I said, a major level down here. We could get a bit of a squeeze of these sellers with a pop up, or we're just going to start to chop around below that level and start to fade again. Okay, looking at some currencies now. This is the Aussie dollar. I think, let me just check out what the US dollar did. But not there. I want to get over to, just 1 second, bear with me a minute. Now that's the US dollar on a daily chart. Let's get back down to a 30-minute. The dollar's still grinding its way higher, which is pressuring the currencies. You can see, so that it's come into this area, back into this area here. We spoke about this, last few sessions, that dollar grinding higher. If you're talking up inflation and interest rates, and all the numbers coming out are very strong in the US, stronger than expected, that would lead to a bit of a pop up in the US dollar. Even some safe haven buying with what's happening with Russia and Ukraine and US, that argy-bargy over there, that's driving that US dollar higher as well. So back to the currencies, and that's why you're seeing this move down on the Aussie, and you're looking at Euro and the pound as well. So Aussie, we flushed this 71.10 area. So I'd be interested to see whether it can start to hold. There's no clear break of that downtrend at the moment. We've got some little minor levels. You'd probably find a bit of a supply zone there, maybe a supply zone there. Now, if we start to grind our way up through this level and start attacking there, I'd be looking for a bit of a pop, pullback. If we start to hold a pullback, looking for a move up to that 71.49 area. Okay, but it's only going to be some scalping day. If that starts to hold, you can see that trend is still rolling over, still down. We're back to the MAs here. That's the 100 MA, EMA. If we start to roll from here, look for it to take out 71.10, and we're going to start to push down to 70.52. So that'd be my play for those today. But markets like to squeeze. They do all their action in the US session, a lot of the currencies, and they just squeeze out. So any sort of shorts that look clear, for my lately, if it's a short clear setup, I'll be looking for a buy, because I just feel that the action during the day, especially in the Asian market, comes to the European Open, they tend to just squeeze the obvious levels. Okay, put the pressure on the obviously. So if there's shorts here, they'll be putting the pressure on the longs, but we'll see what happens. Pound has this key level, or more of a major level, which you can see it's chopped around. We did it here, back over here, chopped around that level here, 35.22. Reacted up and off, and now we pushed through. So we extended that level down to 34.95. The market is looking, if that's the case, we've got that extension up here, and then we faded. If we got an extension, but mainly I'm sort of looking at this level here. I would expect this is the double top for now. We've got a lower high come to play, so that could see that these lows in here hold, and we start to fade. So I'll be looking for more of a bit of a sell back into, we've got that little triangle, whatever you want to call it, back into 34.95. Even through there, we could start to look down to 34.40, but I would expect that's going to kick off, if it does, into the European session rather than in the Asian session. We could just keep grinding away higher, take out these level, and start to head up towards, that flush out that level, which I'll be looking at as well, 35, 40, 49, 50, thereabouts. So I would expect potentially, if we start to pop up through here, I would expect maybe that's going to be a level and we can get a short off there. But I think that's going to be later on. Euro obviously getting knocked down, knocked on the head a bit with the US dollar rally. The US dollar rally is quite strong, really. You look at that's the European Open, about here, popped down, popped up again, retested into that zone where it opened, and then straight back down again as the US dollar get buoyed. So US dollar is still finding some safe haven. You would expect. It depends. If we start to get a rally tonight in the US, then that US dollar you might see some all those shorts that have been built. Sorry, the longs that have been building up start to get squeezed out, and the dollar move down, and that could be a good little action higher on the euro, Aussie, pound, and so on. So, like I said, we're all looking at the 30-minute charts, and I'll be looking for this zone here. You can see how it's spiked in that area. Last time it just ramped up. Now that was probably over a number. I'd suggest 1230 would have been a number. We've got this move down, which has been quite clear. So looking at that, how it's been quite strong on the way down. If this starts to hold, I'll be looking for a higher low off that level. Okay, I want to see sort of a pump. Maybe you get, well, if we do that properly, we get a bit of a push up, then some sort of higher low that I can work off. Even if it starts to get a bit choppy, pop up, something like that. Okay, that's what I'll be looking for. These two sort of scenarios off that level. If that level starts to hold and we start to break this trend line, okay, you break into some of these highs, take a bit of a squeeze, but it's going to be to do with the US dollar, which I wouldn't expect the US dollar to do too much. Everyone's focused on what is happening in the US. Okay, US yen, you can see that finding some buying, you find some support off that 115 even. Just missed out from that resistance zone at 114.91. It started to break through, so you can see the push down, pop up, lower high, double bottom, RTF starts to take out that level. So I'll be looking for more of, maybe something like this. It starts to hold up there and then see if we can get a bit of a rally. Okay, but I do want to see, I'm expecting this to flush lower off that 115.66, drag in some sellers, maybe take out this level just in here. You can see that's kind of the level we'd be focused on. If it starts to take that out and starts to bounce back, holding a higher low, I think you've got one, always looking for a secondary move. So that's your first move down, secondary move down and start to hold. That's what I'll be looking for on that one there. But I think this level through here is held. It could be that we're just fading off that level, but if we start to grind our way down, a grind leads me to believe that we've got some more room to move on the upside, especially after taking this little zone through here. What is that area? 115.60, say. Okay, gold has popped in 1873. That's a major high. I think we can see it. It's a major high. Go back to the daily charts. Actually, let's just look at it for you. Go back to a 4-hourly chart. You probably see it through there. Yep. So that high was back in the 18th on the 30-minute charts. So you can see, look, it's moving up, but I would expect this could be a bit of an area where you can see we start to squeeze some of these longs that built up. Now, I think a lot of this move up in gold has been a bit of a safe haven bid. Recently, we've always talked about, gold as an inflation hedge. I don't think that's going to happen. Could be. It could be the start of it. Yeah, we could be breaking out since we get up through 1850. It could be the start of a good move higher. But I would expect that we might need to see some rate rises. So if we start to see some rate rises, because no one really knows what the Fed's going to do. They've always talked up they're going to hold it, and they did that. Even if inflation's rising, they didn't expect inflation to get straight up, as high as it is, and the numbers to be as hard, going as strong as they are. But they're still holding off and raising rates, which you would expect they've got to do it sooner or later. So if that's the respect, and gold's just looking at it from that perspective, where it's uncertain whether there will be some follow through from the Fed or not, then once they start to get some rate rises, you might find that gold just continues to drag higher. But it's got to contend with this 1873 level at the moment. So I'll be looking for maybe a flush up. And if we start to get a back and fill back into that level, below that level, I'll be looking for a lower high. But more of a short-term sell, because I know there's some longs built up that get squeezed out. But if we start to pop up and hold the level, then you've got continuation on the way up. Look at crude. Crude just keeps powering higher. Bounced into that level, 92.20, bounced off that, straight back up again. So that I think it's finding a bit of a bid from that Ukraine, US, Ukraine, Russia issues. It's finding a bit of a bid from that and finding a bit of love from that. It's on the way up. It's been quite strong. You've got a major level. See, it's a major level high. You have to go back to your daily. Let's look at the daily here, so if we can get that. No, we've got the wrong contract here. Anyway, on a daily level, if you can get the futures contract, it's quite a bit higher. It's around the $100 mark. Okay, 100, 105 area. So if we're looking at that, there's a lot of room to move on the upside. If we're looking at, say, this area up here as a potential sell zone. Okay, if that's the case, then it's just going to keep chugging higher. We're looking for the pullbacks, higher low, hold off the MAs and start to work our way up. Now, there's going to be times when we've just got through this level here. It look like we're starting to fade off that. I think the market likes to do out of hours. So in the US session being the main session, it will drive higher. Out of hours, it looks to flush some buyers. So there's some buyers that built up off 92.20. I'd be looking for more of just a short-term short through the Asian session, potentially through European session. Maybe it drives down off that level and then turns around and starts to hold again a key level and starts to ramp back up again coming into US Open. But for now, it is definitely trending higher. This price action, I don't like it. I don't think it's quite as clean, but it's moving higher. This is a lot nicer. You got these level hold, pop up, higher, low, just in here, sorry, take out that trend down, break, higher, low. That's what you want to buy into. But at the moment, I wouldn't mind just seeing a pullback first, see if the pullback can stick, and then look to buy. Copper. Copper's faded off these highs, which we spoke about yesterday. It got into these highs, faded yesterday, and faded again overnight. Where was that open? Let me just check. That's the morning session. So it was about here. So that was your Monday, we're now Friday session. Friday night session faded off that level, then faded again overnight. Did get buoyed a bit into this zone. So you'd expect the closer it gets to a key obvious support zone, there's going to be some bargain hunting. But if it can't get through, this is the level I'll be watching. Just a minor level. If we start to hold that level and start to fade again, I'm looking for a push into that 97.50 area through here. Okay. But for now, if we start to pop up through here and start to hold a pullback, I'm looking for another ramp higher. Okay. Last to finish off with, we just get some cryptos. Ethereum Bitcoin. We've got the market pop through 29.47, faded through there, it's starting to ramp up again, and it's starting to hold around that level. So really, we either hold that level and roll over, or we start to a bit of a grind higher and just start to take out some of these sellers. Okay, and the Bitcoin's pretty much the same, not as clear a level. It was sort of in between that 4,900 level and 42,840. It's pushing up to 42,840. See if it can get through there. Just want to see what happens, because it is, we are coming off a key, sort of a major, got that double top up here, lower high. This could be your secondary move. We're looking at 1, 2 moves down, and we start to ramp up from there potentially. So yeah, it's got the potential just to chop around here and just be sort of rangy until the US opens. So if the US starts to find a bid, expect starts to find a bid later in tonight in US European session, start a US session, expect Bitcoin and Ethereum to start to ramp up again. You get some bargain hunters back into those. All right, guys, that's all I want to talk about. Let's finish it up there. All the best for today, and thanks for joining me. Remember to leave a like if you like what you hear, and we'll speak to you again tomorrow.